Hello, I am Victoria Grippi, and I'm going to be providing an analysis regarding the attrition numbers for Imagine Co. The goal is to determine why are employees leaving, and after reviewing and assembling the data, there are multiple factors and fields for us to evaluate. Looking at our dashboard, we see that we have our total attrition, which is 237 employees. Now, when we filter our chart, this is going to change to show exactly how the filters are affecting the numbers of attrition. So starting at looking at our charts, we have attrition by education, ranging from below college to doctorate. We have attrition by job level, ranging from entry level to senior management. We're also looking at income versus years at the company and overtime, whether or not they were working overtime when they eventually left our company. So looking really high level at the accounts, we see that a majority of the employees that left were bachelor's level. We see that at job level, most were entry level. And if we look at the company's income versus years, we see that at this 10-year mark, we see a dramatic decrease of employees leaving. So from 0 to 10 years is our most, and then we do see that we kind of have this cap of income between 10,000 and 20,000 and below is when the majority happens. And for overtime, we see that out of all the 237 employees that left, the majority of them were working overtime. So some of our main insights to look a little deeper in this data, first we want to just determine what age group is leaving the most. And that one is going to be this 26 to 34, which had a total of 106 employees who left. And we also see in this that this pattern is remaining the same of bachelor's degree and entry level being the most amount of employees leaving. So we're going to unfilter that. And next we're going to look into this bachelor's degree a little bit and this entry level and just see see why we're seeing this. So we can filter bachelor's level and entry. And we're seeing that in this 1 year mark, we actually have an employee working in research and development for 1 year who is making roughly above $1,000 a month. And we can compare this to someone with little education below college. And we see that we have someone who's also worked for 1 year, same entry level, and they're making over 2,600 a month. So this is just kind of unproportionate compensation due to education level for the same job level. And we can also see this in this mid-level junior area. So for below college, we have 1 year making over $6,600 monthly. And if we do that for bachelors, this 1 year, we see they're not even making 5,000 monthly. So this is probably a reason why we're seeing this attrition, just this unlevel compensation level. So another thing we're going to look at is the overtime. We just want to kind of get an idea of who is working overtime. Is it the same consistent for this entry level? So we can see that entry level positions, they definitely had more people who left that were working overtime. And this category, this entry level, is definitely showing a higher percentage of this. And the next thing that we want to look at is the commute. So we actually have this embedded in our income versus years graph. The bigger the size point is, that means that the commute length is greater. So if we just look at all of our job levels, we see that above 15, we have a lot of employees leaving that have worked for at this 10-year mark. If they're at 10 years or less, we see a lot of leaving in that. And if we actually filter this for our mid-level junior and senior, we see that we have a lot of them leaving that have not worked for the company that long and also ones who have worked for the company. So we're talking about middle level juniors and seniors who have worked for us for 10 years leaving, and they do have these high commute length numbers, which is 22 miles, 29 miles. 28 miles over here. So that's just something that we should look into for our employees who have been here for a while. They know what they're doing. They are suffering these high commutes. So let's unfilter that data so we can keep continuing to look. And also one thing that was noticed because of this commute is if we look at our entry level people who are still somewhat new to the company, we see that for this 1 year, we have a lot of our people leaving, and we can even unfilter this to all of our people. And we still see a very high collection right here of attritions based on this commute length. So, in order to address this issue, I'm going to provide three recommendations. And the first one is that overtime attrition we were talking about for entry level. There's just a very high amount of entry level workers who are working this overtime, and it could be why they are leaving. And so this recommendation would be to drastically reduce this and give our entry-level workers, especially those who haven't been with the company for a very long time, to let them ease into our position and let them not suffer this burnout or this anxiety and stress due to this. Since this could be one of their first jobs, it could be very stressful. So we could eliminate that and maybe wait till they get up to that junior level or until they get a little bit more experience. And the next recommendation is to increase or level out the pay for education versus years at company versus job level. We don't want to see this disproportionate levels between employees with higher education working the same job role and working the same amount of years at our company. We definitely want to treat higher education as an advantage, as an incentives to pursue this education. And our third recommendation is to address the commute length, and this is going to be to offer hybrid and more flexible work options to reduce the burden, and especially like we were mentioning earlier, to our mid-level seniors and mid-level juniors. These are employees that we have had for multiple years usually, and they have already been hired into these positions, probably with prior experience because they are higher job levels, and we don't want to see them leave because they are very integral, very important to our processes and our company. And these are positions that could definitely be more hybrid, be more flexible, just to help out with that, especially with those very high commutes. And so the most important recommendation that I'm going to say is going to impact this the most is definitely going to be that pay versus education, years at company, and job level. There's just so many things that this affects within an employee. Just like we saw earlier that age range that we were looking at, this 26 to 34 with the highest of these two things, this age range is a very important part of a career being built by an employee. They're trying to figure out what company they want to work for long term. Where do they see growth at? Where do they see compensation range increasing for their life? And this is where we want to be very good about gauging compensation versus what they're really bringing to the table. And we want our employees to see, we want them to see that future within our organization. And also just showing these pay scales versus their education is just increasing motivation to improve and to get better. And we want our employees to be commitment and loyal to our company and not just leaving at the first opportunity to get a higher paying job. So rewarding that determination and motivation for higher education will eventually benefit. And we also want to lower this because the turnover cost of finding new employees year after year is just something that we could save. And we also don't want to lose our high education employees because this is internal talent that we are trying to keep and increase. And while that is the recommendation that I am saying is our main focus, it is still important to look at what we might be risking by not implementing the other ones. So the first one that we had talked about is reducing that overtime for new employees. And this goes back into some of the points that we had just mentioned. So entry level employees working the most overtime, this again is leading to that burnout, that stress, unmotivated employees, and that high turnover rate. And also, it's also making us lose our employees very easily to other offers only based on higher pay or less working hours. We don't want to be that company that is just overworking our brand new employees and not giving them that balance that is that adjustment period to get working with us. And the last one, not addressing the commute length and flexibility. So to start by looking at that, we want to look at that entry level. So what's going to continue to happen is just going to be that high turnover rate. We're going to continue to see this. New workers work for us for a year and just realize that those 20+ mile commutes are just not worth it. They'd rather find a remote job that works better for their lifestyle. And it also gets really harmful when we move into losing our mid-level senior and juniors, people that have worked for our company between 5 and 10 years. They're just really hard people to really replace and get back into the groove of things. We don't want to be losing them because we're just not flexible enough. And this also reduces our job attractiveness when we want high quality employees to want to work for us, and we don't have anything that matches what other companies are showing about this hybrid remote schedules. It just reduces employees even wanting to work for us. And that's going to be the end of our analysis. I hope that really shed some light on this problem, and then maybe we can get some strategies to start fixing it. Thank you.